This is the United States of America, where slavery is still legal under the 13th Amendment if you've been convicted of a crime.
You can be legally enslaved. If it looks like slavery, it smells like slavery, it sounds like slavery, it's slavery.
Turns out, when Abraham Lincoln abolished slavery by ratifying the 13th Amendment in 1865, they left in one little exception: convicted criminals.
Locked up. They're gonna slave
like everyone's slave, not just.
Welcome to Pegasus versus the World, where we take on challenges, comedy, trending topics, and some travel. City boy! City boy! All right, this is an interesting one. I'm pretty sure there was a movie on Netflix about the 13th Amendment of some capacity. And basically it's, the concept of privatized prisons and, inmates having to do slave labor. I thought in certain places they get paid very minuscule. It's like 50 cents a day or 25 cents a day, which still is a payment considering you committed a crime. But then, I heard there's things where you have to take part in, making license plates or whatever for free, or you get certain privileges taken, etc. Which, if you're doing work for something that's a commodity that makes money, then what is that called again? Oh, potentially slavery, huh? Now, I want to just hear, I never play the full videos because with this, he's doing different interviews, and I try to get you guys to go over there and peep out it in its entirety. So I kind of bounce around. So be aware of that. This is on Tyler Oliveria's channel, but the concept he's bringing here is pretty relevant, and it's a trending topic. And I want to hear it play out because this is a topic I've heard of it. And I started to wonder recently, where does the money go? Does it go to corporations? Does it go to the taxpayers? So this is what I think. And maybe this is a hot take, and I haven't thought of it in that much depth. So maybe it's the incorrect way about thinking about it. But first and foremost, jail should be some type of rehabilitation system in there to try to rehabilitate people to, get back into the real world. So I think that should be first and foremost. Second, there's no place in society in the sense for people who are doing things against kids, very, very violent criminals, etc. So that could be in a category almost where I hate to say it, but it's I don't care. I just don't, Now, small drug offenses like selling Mary Jane and, petty stuff, I do think it's pretty obvious people can be rehabilitated from petty theft, addiction, car violations, at some capacity, DUI stuff. So there's levels, right? But at the end of the day, I'm if you committed a crime, in America, the taxpayers fund a lot of the institution at some capacity, from my understanding. If that's not true, please let me know, because I would change my stance. But, the court system, the taxpayers are funding. We fund so many parts of what happens to criminals. I don't give a F if they're out working and the money comes back to society, goes to school, goes to policing, goes to, teen centers. That's awesome. Let's do it. I don't care. I just don't. You can call it slavery, call it what you want. But if you did the crime and a part of your crime is paying back some upflow to society, I think that's a great situation. However, I don't know if that's what's happening. So I wanted to check out some of this and see what they're talking about. This is, I investigated the country where slavery is still legal. And I think that's a little disingenuous, if I'm being honest, because we're talking about America. And there's actually countries that have real slavery that has nothing to do with the prison system. It's just out in the open. There's just slavery. And then on top of it all, we subscribe to slave labor in China and all these other places where it's some of it isn't because they get paid a little bit, but there's still slave labor in other countries going on. So to put that, I guess, because he says legal, because it's the jail system. It's a legal way to do it, but I'm just bro, there's countries doing way worse forms of this. And again, I think, if you commit the crime, paying back society for, to give back to the community that's actually trying to uphold a good justice system. So you have, a way to get out or a pathway to get out of jail, be rehabilitated, stuff like that. I think that's a good idea. But you guys let me know what you think in the comments. Let's watch some of this.
This is the United States of America, where slavery is still legal under the 13th Amendment if you've been convicted of a crime.
You can be legally enslaved. If it looks like slavery, it smells like slavery, it sounds like slavery, it's slavery.
Turns out, when Abraham Lincoln abolished slavery by ratifying the 13th Amendment...
I mean, really? Slavery, we've gone over this on the channel, but slavery literally, so for America, Europeans went over to Africa because they weren't able to survive in that environment. They stayed on the coast, and Africans went and got the European slaves. African people went in deeper into the country, got slaves, and sold those slaves to the Europeans who stayed on the coast for the most part, then brought them over here unwillingly to do slave labor. That's to do just labor for free. You're getting whipped, all this stuff. So I just wanted to clarify that. Here, someone did a crime that was illegal. They went to jail, and then, they're working for free in that jail. Now, maybe they're working against their own, like, oh, I didn't want to work or whatever. But the difference is the initial thing that put you in this place is you committed a crime. So I just think that's a huge premise there that's just kind of, it smells like slavery, looks like slavery, it's slavery. Like, calm down, because I feel like you're taking a little bit of the umph from slavery. Like, you're just making it like, oh, like, no. The slave trade was wild, like when you think about what was happening and the transfer of people. Now, it's wild for this day and age. It wasn't wild for back then because that just was a common thing done. So that, I don't know, man. I just thought it's kind of wild because... Anyway, let's just go.
In 1865, they left in one little exception: convicted criminals.
Locked up. They're gonna flee the
like everyone's slave, not just black people, everyone out.
And refusal to work can be met with harsh punishments like solitary confinement, loss of privileges like visitation, phone calls, commissary access, recreation time, family visits, good time credits, and access to books, hygiene products, and snacks. And the prisoners that do make small amounts of money can have up to 80% of their earnings deducted for various prison-related expenses before they see any of it.
So, did you hear all that? So, one, they have a choice. In original slavery in America, there was no choice. You know what, Massa, I don't feel like working today, so I'm just going to sit in the shed in solitary confinement, which sounds horrible, but it was way better than getting whipped and, having to do a lot of. So you didn't have a choice in slavery, the original slavery. There's multiple choices, and they're getting paid at some capacity. Again, I just want to highlight that they committed a freaking crime. Some of these people taking other people's lives. They're taking other people's property. They're doing things to kids. I don't get it. I just don't have remorse for that, and I just think this helps people learn because I've been through some shit I never did. I confessed on here. Like, I've done some thievery stuff in my young times that I regret, that I'm not proud of, but you get consequences for those and you learn from those consequences, It's just interesting. In slavery, there was like no choices in a lot of aspects, and here trying to compare the two is really odd. But I think that they're lucky. My thing is, where does the money go? Where do the resources, if they are doing slave labor, where does it go? That is the key question here. If it goes to society where they've hurt, because they've technically hurt society at some capacity doing these crimes. So if it goes back into the society, that's an even playing field. I don't even consider that slavery at that point. It's just like, hey, you took from society, now you're giving back to society. Just that simple. But where does it go? Let's see this.
7 states pay them nothing. So who benefits off of their labor? And does make small amounts of money can have up to 80% of their earnings deducted for various prison-related expenses before they see any of it. While 7 states pay them nothing. So who benefits?
So 7 states. So out of 50 states, 7 states. So we're highlighting 7 states like it's the outlier. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, I just want to watch where this narrative goes because 7, that's not even the majority. So you can't consider that the norm. So already in this argument, I would say just from that premise that the argument should be, hey, are we paying them enough, or is the money going to the right places? It shouldn't be the whole slavery thing, because everyone's getting paid, out of basically 43 states are paying the inmates and 7 aren't. So should I get the talking about the 7, but highlighting the 7 like that's the majority? That's another key thing that I would just point out there.
And the prisoners that do make small amounts of money can have up to 80% of their earnings deducted for various prison-related expenses before they see any of it, while 7 states pay them nothing. So who benefits off of their labor? And does America have financial upside in locking more and more Americans in prison to maintain a steady supply of state-owned slaves? More importantly, did slavery ever end in America, or did it just rebrand itself to something more socially acceptable?
Some may not know is almost half of those men and women fighting fires are convicted felons.
And it's clear.
But it's not money these inmates are working for. It's their future freedom.
Am I tripping? That's what it should be. Like, if you're a felon, that's like the highest degree, right? So you did something that took from our society, from the village. Now you're just giving back. And then when it's paid off, it's equal. You free again. You get, now I do. Anyways, that's a whole nother story, because felons, it's hard to get apartments. It's hard to do this, that, and the other. It is not easy. But that's a whole different conversation. Right now, we're talking about, slavery. Okay, let's go.
Speak up with ex-prisoners who were locked up in Texas, work in the deadly hot fields for their master, Uncle Sam. I went to one of the most incarcerated cities in America to see if they knew that slavery is still legal in America.
Did you know it's still legal to enslave someone if they commit a crime in the United States of America?
You know what? I think we're all slaves.
Did you know about that exception?
Wow, I ain't know that.
She kind of dropped a gem. She said, we're in the Matrix. I think we're all slaves. That's kind of raw, because at some capacity, we're all kind of willingly doing this shit, so that's a bit far-fetched, but I understand the premise.
Yes, I do know that.
Did not know that.
The way the government is going, yeah, I would believe it, yeah.
Does that come as a surprise?
Yes.
Yeah, that surprised me a bit.
Doesn't surprise me at all.
No, I'm not surprised.
That is disturbing.
Isn't that crazy?
Wow.
Yeah. Crazy, right? No one really thinks about it.
That's weird.
Do you support slavery?
No comment, buddy.
Fair. Have a great day.
You're in 2025, you shouldn't be enslaved.
Hell no.
Hell no.
No. Shouldn't even be a thought in mind, ever.
I'm not saying they should, but it will happen, and if it do, and people don't fight back, that's on them.
Do you think slavery ever ended in America?
No, it's just transformed. It's never changed. It's always been that way.
You know the process of how indentured servitude went, and then how it formed slavery. You understand that this is what's going on now. It's just not just black people anymore. So like everyone's slave, not just black people, not just people of color. It's everyone now, and everyone's starting to feel it.
I think that law should be ratified. Should be changed for sure.
It shouldn't be legal to enslave somebody if they commit a crime.
Is there any crime that would warrant whiplashing in the fields, like plantation style?
No, absolutely not.
No matter the...
So let's put it this way. The lady brought up an interesting point where she's like, you shouldn't be able to enslave somebody because they committed a crime. However, hear me out. I think criminals, their consequence is going to jail, getting locked up. In the meantime, while they're being locked up, they should be able to do productive things. So one is work, so they can give back to the society they stole from. Not that they're a thief, but they could have took someone's life. They could have changed someone traumatically for the rest of their life. Whatever it is, financially, these scammers, like taking people's whole livelihood. With my father-in-law, someone committed fraud with his name and his social for over $100,000, and he had to pay the price for that. He ended up having to go through bankruptcy, all this stuff for someone who just stole his whole life. So when do the criminals take accountability and pay back the bullshit they're doing? F that. So instead of calling it slavery, maybe it's work to pay back society. Also, if you're working, it goes into, the prison system in the sense of rehabilitation programs and things that, so you know what I mean? Like, I'm not like, oh, just take, but I just don't understand why we're using the premise of slavery for people who have taken from society and done criminal activities, some of them the most heinous activities, and they continue to do heinous activities in the prison system. So not that the prison system is all peachy keen. Now, the thing that highlighted here that I don't know, it insinuated that corporations are getting paid off of this. That's a problem. That's problematic, absolutely, because then the concept of slavery is, corporations are turning criminals into slaves. understood a little bit better. But again, I think that should be the premise of giving back to, being productive in there so you grow as a human being, right? You have to be productive. You have to learn to do all these different things to be a better human being. So keeping them working and bouncing around where they're able to create something that's monetary so then they can rehabilitate and have a bunch of things that work towards them. I think that would be more of the wave. But again, I'm just spitting off the cuff.
Crime?
No matter.
Even like a child rapist?
Oh, he said the R word. I'm trying to dodge that type of stuff. Dang. Oh, God. That was pretty blunt, too.
Well,
no one.
Murder?
No one.
This is getting way heavy.
Murder?
Yeah, I mean, those guys, I don't know.
Maybe them?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Even if you're a heinous criminal who commits a terrible crime?
No, there's no slaves. Shouldn't be any slaves.
I mean, I think all crimes are different levels. I mean, you're getting dealt with in there by other inmates. Justice happen on its own. Whipping like that, we're going back 100 years right there.
The crime and the time should match.
No forced labor?
No.
And the severity of
I don't really agree. I don't know.
their crime should matter and how much time they get. Like I said, our legal system is jacked up. People are getting more time than they deserve for small things that are like as much as a gram of wheat.
Where I draw the line is that...
See, that's where I agree. Like, you know, the whole Mary Jane thing is crazy. I just don't, you know, I don't know. I have empathy for inmates and people who are in the system. However, you just got to be careful because you just don't, I mean, you're playing with fire there. Again, I think having people in a productive situation is better. Like even them working out is productive. It's good for the mind, you know, but you got to give them some outlets that are positive for rehabilitation. I think working is a great form of rehabilitation. I think just where is the monetization allocated? That's the key. Anyways, I'm going to skip through some of this and see where we go with this.
Line itself.
We're not going to argue.
This is constitutionally protected ability to film in the exterior of the prison, right?
They'll have the right to, you know, to record and all that.
Yeah.
But not on state property, on the other side of that stop sign.
That's unconstitutional.
State property.
Okay. What business do y'all have on this state property right now?
First Amendment, expression, journalism.
Y'all have an appointment?
No, we don't have an appointment, but we're not trying to come on the inside of the premises. We're on the outside. No.
Y'all too close to the gate. I got inmates here. We don't know who y'all are.
We're not trying to get a rise out of anyone. We prefer if you're out of the shop.
No. We're not going to be doing that, man. Hey.
Well, once again,
show them the privacy, man. Show them respect, man. You don't know what they've been through.
That's not
what's going on.
That's not the point.
That's my whole thing.
You're misunderstanding the whole point. We're trying to get some B-roll on the outside of the prison. Officer Cruz here, I guess, is setting the example for the lack of transparency and the ability for any journalists to gain access and understand what's even happening inside here. Yes.
You cannot be on the premises filming. You don't have authorization. So I'm going to...
It's public property, no?
Sir, I'm going to have to ask y'all to leave. You can't be here filming, okay?
So what we're trying to understand is if you're just making this up or if we're actually in violation of some Texas Penal Code.
I'm not going to answer your rules.
Your rules?
Your questions, I'm just telling y'all need to leave, okay? Sir, please put your phone down.
I would suggest you don't touch the property.
I'm not touching you, man. You don't have authorization to be recorded.
They're sitting on the floor.
They have seats in the prison truck or they're actually shipped like cattle. So, how y'all doing? Hey, we're trying to get some B-roll of the facility here. From our understanding, this is state property and it's constitutionally protected.
You are in violation. And if they ask you to leave, you need to leave. I need your license and your driver's license.
I need someone to tap in the comments. Are they stunting? Because I was under the impression public property, like, you know, they're saying he's in violation. I hate that, you know, authoritative type of like everyone's about the Constitution and shit until like, you know what I mean? Like I'm saying these dudes are probably like, yo, First Amendment, Second Amendment, like type of guys. These cowboy guys are probably on the internet talking about, yo, 2A and First Amendment. And then these brothers just come to do a story on the jail and all of a sudden it's just like rights just dissipate. Again, I don't know if he does have the right, but from everything I've seen in the past, public property, stuff like that, it's like he's not trying to go onto the facility. So there's a difference there. So, you know, I think that's very interesting. And they could have just flew a drone. They could have, well, no, never mind. I'm tripping on that. But let's just see where this goes.
Oh, yes, sir.
As far as secure area, that would be a question of public accessible.
I need your driver's license, and I need it now, please. This is a penitentiary that houses very violent criminals. We have killers, rapists, murderers. We have everything in here. Sure. And they have family members in the world that will come out here and play the same card. Yeah. And when we have people here, we don't know who you are.
I see.
That's understandable. I could see that. I like that. He's giving a direct answer on how they need to try to protect things. And so they need to make sure these guys are who they are, even if this is public property. I mean, that's a valid safety measure.
Okay. So why would you come here to mess with these people?
We're not here to mess with anyone, though. That's
exactly what's happening. Disrupting their operations.
So we are in violation of Texas Penal Code? Is that what you're saying?
All I'm asking you to do is leave.
So are we violating Texas Penal Code?
What I want you to do is get in your car and leave.
All I'm asking is, are we in violation of Texas Penal Code?
One more time for you to get in your car and leave.
I'm confused. We saw the prisoners, a bunch of convicted felons in a van being shipped in and out of the prison. You just experienced the wrath of a small Texas town. Big hat, no cattle, quite literally. Zero transparency. The sheriff of the town himself showed up within 5 minutes, and Big Dog does. But we have 5 cop cars coming, bruh.
The same people that are elected to protect the Constitution and to uphold the Constitution and serve the public are utilizing that against you.
My guess is they're not supposed to be shuttling prisoners in and out of that freely without chains and all that. It was a publicly accessible parking lot. There's no gates. There's no signs. Just drive up there 50 feet away. I bet you a lot of things can go missing or a lot of abuses can go unnoticed out here in these small towns. After nearly getting arrested.
I mean, those are big allegations, but it did seem super sus what we just saw there. And it's just, again, like they said exactly what I said. The same people who will argue the Constitution is the most important thing in a situation like this. I don't know if it went against his constitutional rights. I ain't a damn lawyer, but it did seem kind of sus because they weren't like, I don't know. It is what it is. The reason I can't give a definitive is because I understand and seen enough of the criminal element, and people have broken out of these type of facilities, right? And all it takes is some slick talking, get some footage, do this, that, and the other. So it's understandable, but they did get big dogged for sure.
Myself for filming these prison walls in plain view. To understand what really goes on inside of them, let me introduce you to someone who lived there. I'm here with Marcy, formerly incarcerated for how many years?
I was locked up for 10 years here in Gatesville for a theft charge.
I also want you to meet George.
I went to prison 3 different times, and I was an addict, and I didn't have the money. And I would target fast food joints, and I would wait till they closed, and then I would throw down on whoever was taking the trash out, and I'd walk them back inside, and more often than not, they had the safe open, and they would give me the money, and I'd leave. Yes, I did 27 total. I was an addict. I got out of the Army right at 19 in South.
So this is what I was talking about. I did mention this before people get on my case about being like, hey, Black P said, slave labor to corporations is cool. I did not say that. And I did say, like, there are some unique positions like low level, narcotic distribution like Mary Jane, addiction issues, etc. I said it at the beginning because I get it. Like, I'm not like just lock up everyone and throw away the key. That's not the premise. And there's a nuance here. And also the corruption which in the judicial system, and sometimes, not all the time, corruption in policing could add to longer sentences, etc. So it is a slippery slope. I'm going to definitely agree that there's a slippery slope there.
Texas at a dance, go see a girlfriend. I leave the dance, I've been drinking. I get pulled over, so I get a little mouthy with the cops. He didn't like it, he took me to a jail. He puts me in a tank of men who've been convicted and were awaiting transfer to prison. And I found out later he told them to take care of it. I was beaten, I was raped pretty well all night. Kicked out the next morning and said go home.
So you're beaten and raped?
Oh, yeah.
And where are we right now?
We are in one of the fields, and I think that this was potatoes here that I used to work at. I worked out here in the fields just about my entire incarceration.
10 years straight. How many hours a day did you work, and how much were you paid per hour?
So in Texas, incarcerated folks are paid $0 an hour.
And are you forced to work in the fields?
Yeah, you absolutely have to work. I'm not really against people working, but I'm against people doing kind of needless work. Yeah, day one you get here, and they assign you a job, and the next morning you get up and go to work. So day 2 in Big Girl Prison right here on the Dr. Lane Murray unit, I was out in the fields. And so what that looks like is you're strip searched before going to work. They'll say like 3 hoe, because side note, it's called the hoe squad. Yeah, the hoe
in the dirt, or you're a hoe?
Well, I'm sure they mean hoe in the dirt, but of course it was used derogatory, like hoes line up, hoes get over here. It was really degrading.
So it's dehumanizing from the get-go.
For sure, 100%. You hike to a field, and you've got officers on horseback. They're armed. They're shouting directives at you. Day 2 in prison, you don't know what the hell's going on. You're scared. It's really nerve-wracking. You get out here, and if it's August, it's 105 degrees out here in Texas, and it's not air conditioned in the dorm, and so you're already weak. And if you've been in county jail and the air conditioning, you're really weak because of the heat, and you're out here doing field labor, which is really similar to plantation work.
Bro, this is the greatest commercial to not commit crimes. Isn't that kind of ironic how that works? Like how I'm seeing it, people are probably getting worked up like, this is bullshit. We got to protest this, da-da-da. I'm seeing this, and it's like, bro, I'm not going to jail, bro. That's how I'm seeing it. I'm like, F that. I am not going to jail. this is insane. That's crazy. But again, I don't understand. So as a taxpayer, so someone commits a crime against, the taxpayer society, I'm supposed to fund what? A good time in an air-conditioned prison where they get, technology and get to hang out and chill? Or they pay the consequences for what they did? That's where I'm kind of hung up on this, because I'm just like, I don't get it. Like, I don't get it. Now, misuse and abuse, like what happened to that brother and and it's messed up, because it's just like, yo, he's an addict, and it's tough for addicts, I don't know. This is getting kind of complicated. Let's skip just a little bit. Actually, this is a good place to stop. There's so much of this video to watch. I'm going to watch the rest of this later tonight. I encourage you guys to go to Tyler Oliveria's channel and check it out. But in the meantime, tap into my comments and let me know what you think of this whole concept. I didn't even get to an area. I'm kind of curious. I am just curious because I know any system can be misused at some capacity. I think my main question is, where does the money go? Where does the money go? Does it go to shareholders? Hold on. Let's see this graph that comes up here. Maybe that's my question. I think knowing where the money goes is the answer, because I believe if this is going on, the only way to make it right is if the money goes back to the taxpayer who funded the majority of this shit to go happen. Other than, I don't know if we fund like the facility being built, because I know there's a whole private prison sector and there's money in that. So I don't know how it works, but anyways.
Or they're going to get out and still not know how to handle their emotions and handle what they've been through and still go back to their same old ways, and they end up back to prison, and our recidivism rates show that.
So it's just showing that they're not getting rehabilitated. Like I mentioned, if they're out there generating money for the prison system, it should help with the rehabilitation situation, I don't know. I think my main question is, where does the money go? Where does the money go? I thought, at the beginning they insinuated corporations, and I believe, there's a privatized prison industry I'm familiar with somewhat. So maybe this money's going to shareholders and shit. That's where I'm like, that's wild. That is actually crazy, because the crime was committed in our society, on citizens or whatever. It has affected our society. The money should just go back, and it should just be like a circle, and just be all good. Be like, hey, that's the consequence. You took from, now you give back. And even if you end up giving back a little more, it will help society. And when you get back into society will be a better place for you as well, because you paid back into it. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. You guys let me know in the comments. Holler.
City boy, city boy.